Seven Last Words of the Unarmed is a setting of the last words of 7 unarmed Black men that were killed by authority figures. These last words are organized according to the 7 last words of Christ, that liturgy in the Christian world, which takes the last sayings that Jesus said from the cross and sets to music. It's a time-honored tradition held by Haydn and Schütz, among others. And in using that liturgy, my aim is to focus on the humanity of these men. Jesus says in the 7 last words of Christ things like, "I'm thirsty," which is a very human idea. We all say, "I'm thirsty" at some point. And rather than focusing on his divinity, it really emphasizes the suffering that he went through. So 7 Last Words of the Unarmed is really an attempt to honor and hold in memory the humanity of these men who were taken before their time.
My name is Shakyla Wanyama, and I am currently studying choral conducting with Kathy Romy at the University of Minnesota. I first heard about this piece kind of by accident. I kind of had 2 reactions. The first was sort of the emotional gut reaction, hearing these words and thinking about the individuals who said them and the circumstances, the duress under which they said them. And then the second thing was a little bit of awe, I guess. There are subjects that we talk about amongst our communities. For example, things that we talk about in the Black community that we don't share normally outside of the Black community. And this was one of those topics where I thought, this dude just put it out there. I was in awe of his courage and of his kind of creative vision. Who should perform the piece and how should it be done? And it's kind of an endless box of questions and reflections that open.
Well, my name is Adrian Davis, and myself and Shakyla Wanyama will be working together with the Minnesota Chorale to prepare for the performance of this fabulous work in context with where we are here in Minneapolis and everything that we have experienced. It's almost like a perfect storm that we have an opportunity to bear culture and to really use music as an agent of change at this period of time where we are. It is a learned trauma in the Black community that we have to keep our heads on a swivel. In the 7 last words, these messages that these Black men were speaking is an external experience of actually what we are feeling internally. Officers, why do you have your guns out? You shot me. I can't breathe. These are dehumanizing experiences.
The whole piece is me processing a lot of conflicting emotions and complicated emotions, and ending with "I can't breathe," and the return of the opening figure at the end sort of betrays an acknowledgement, a very sad acknowledgement, that this would continue. And here we are 7 years later, and it's still frighteningly relevant. In the liturgy is Jesus talking to his mother, "Mother, this is thy son. Son, this is thy mother," talking to Mary and his beloved disciple John, saying, "Take care of each other while I'm gone." For that maternal connection, the third part of 7 Last Words of the Unarmed is the last words of Amadou Diallo to his mom and the voicemail, "Mom, I'm going to college." His words are the only one that I have set in that piece that are removed from the impact of death. It's the only one that's imbued with a sense of hope. And so I decided to tap into that, and rather than doing something that's agitated or filled with angst, there's a sort of plaintive, rolling melody on the piano, and the chorus just comes in softly over that.
It's such a tender part of the piece, I would say. Gets me every time, because how many of us have been fortunate enough to be able to say, Mom, I'm going to college. That's just such a moment. There is power in remembering. There's power in insisting somehow that people listen to these men's last words. I think for me, that's the most important part of the piece.
These opportunities for us to speak on it, I think musically, we have that opportunity to do that here. For it to actually have an influence on you, that is that critical consciousness that I seek from the audience, that we collectively need to do something about this. We need to have justice.
People finally get it when they see someone that looks like them saying, "You shot me." It finally clicks. And there's complicated feelings in response to that, because the things that are said in this piece, the emotions that are being expressed in this piece are no different from Nina Simone in Mississippi Goddam in 1964. I don't believe that one piece of music can completely change these big, ideas and problems that we are tackling. But I think it's a part of being an ethical artist nowadays to understand the important role that community plays in music making, that music can create community, that music can transcend boundaries. When I think to my childhood as a 9-year-old kid growing up in the Caribbean, that I heard Tchaikovsky on a CD and a dead white Russian guy was making this black Caribbean boy cry, that shows the power of this music that we love so much.
There's an individual who died, Amir Locke, was murdered right across the street from Orchestra Hall. How in Minneapolis, of all places, that was allowed to happen. And so my hope is that we, as a city, but also, of course, as a society, demand change. The amazing thing about artists and musicians is that we live in a world of potential. And so when it comes to sort of these really challenging social issues, we are practiced in living with possibility. And I think that in itself is a really powerful way to live.
The piece has continually reminded me how vulnerability itself can be an invitation to empathy. And over the years, I've seen how that sort of raw vulnerability that I don't think I'll ever be able to reach again, that I've seen how that vulnerability has invited other people to respond in kind. That the idea of holding these men and these victims and these communities in our memory will be a part of saving lives. It's so easy for me to be caught up in the despair and the devastation of it all. I know that music has a transformative power, and if it could change one heart, one mind, then it's worth it.